All right, good evening. Thank you all for coming to tonight's Faith Forum on music as a spiritual practice. Music obviously plays a huge role in the life of the Christian church and is integral to our worship culture. There are a lot of different ways we could have gone tonight on approaching music as a spiritual practice. So to begin, I'd like for us to take just a minute to revisit what spirituality is. And we'll go to the next slide, please. This is not a textbook definition, but essentially spirituality concerns an individual's search for meaning, purpose, and connection to something greater, with a focus on personal transformation and inner peace or wholeness. And as Annabeth shared with us at the beginning of this forum series, slide please, spiritual practices help us to lean into our innate connection with the divine and put us into a posture to experience that connection more often and in a more profound way. Tonight, I'll invite you to take part in a few specific spiritual practices involving music, and my hope is that all of us will leave with a greater awareness of the inherently spiritual nature of music and how it can continually draw each of us closer to God and each other. The first practice we'll take part in will be a music journaling exercise to go along with some active listening. Please go ahead and grab a pen off of your table, and you've got a sheet. The last sheet of your packet is a piece of lined paper for you to write on. There's also extra sheets of paper over on this table if anybody needs an extra sheet of paper to write on at any point tonight. So for this first journal entry, the only prompt is going to be to listen and write down or draw whatever comes to mind. You may remember having done something like this, maybe in elementary school. But you're just going to draw or write down whatever words or feelings come to mind. You can feel, or actually, I don't know if we're going to have the video, but if we do have video, you can feel free to watch the video, but it might be distracting. So I would invite you to close your eyes as you listen to the music. And again, just write down whatever comes to mind as you listen. All right, would anybody like to share what they wrote down? I can call on people. Steve, go ahead. Can you say that a little louder? Give and take movement going forward. Building the comments. Great, thank you. So sort of a description of kind of how you heard the momentum of the piece. Great, thank you. Anybody else want to share? Heather. Mm-hmm. Okay, I can see both of those, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, kind of a sense of movement, basically, yeah. Becky. Hmm. When? Okay, I like that. Yeah, searching and finding. Anybody? Happiness and twirling, you said? I don't know why that can't be deep, but yeah, I like that. That's good. I can hear all of this in the music. I never would, so that's not what I would have necessarily thought of, what I'm hearing. I mean, some of them I can definitely see. I actually was not really doing the exercise along with you, so I have to admit. But I can hear all of these different things. I would say, for me, that particular piece is like definitely joy at the end is what I hear, but sort of working towards that joy, sort of searching and finding. I like that kind of description. Was there another hand I saw? Yeah, Carol. Yeah, to get more serious, as soon as I started listening to it, I was immediately transported to the symphony. Mhm. Yeah, but so it stirred memories though and reminded you of connections to family. Right, right. Anything else? Yes.
Well, before I even looked at the picture, I had my head buried down there.
Yeah.
I said arpeggiated lyrical.
He said, just so you know, heard what he said. He said he wrote Yo-Yo Ma. That was the cello player that was playing. So.
I said arpeggiated lyrical, resonant, sonorous, structured but overarching. Like I thought, Anna said butterfly. I said floating.
Right. That's funny. So, to me, those sound like a little bit more musical terms that.
Get wrapped up in that. I just had to get that out.
Yeah.
Floating.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I can definitely see that. All right. So can we all agree that hearing that piece of music and listening to it with intention made us feel something? Is that a yes? Okay. Good. Okay, so music can affect each of us a little bit differently, but there are some common physical, mental, and social benefits we can all enjoy from music, and these include, slide please, brain development. Learning and playing music can strengthen brain structures, improve fine motor skills, and enhance language development. Physical health and pain relief. Listening to music can lower blood pressure, reduce fatigue, and decrease pain perception, making it useful in medical and therapeutic settings. Cognitive and brain function. Music improves memory, keeps the mind sharp in older adults, and can assist in movement and rehabilitation for conditions like Parkinson's by stimulating brain regions involved in timing and motion. Social and lifestyle benefits. Music strengthens social bonds, encourages community, and acts as a powerful motivator. And mental health and emotional regulation. Music can elevate mood by triggering dopamine and serotonin, helping to alleviate depression and anxiety. It serves as a tool for emotional expression and stress relief, reducing cortisol levels. Music literally vibrates our bodies and transforms us as we engage with and participate in it. I believe that music is an indicator of the personal presence of God, a principal way of connecting with the holy that carries implicit meaning related to identity. Slide, please. Meaning is made and identity is formed through music. As preacher, hymn writer, theologian, and musician Tom Troger says, we do not perform or hear music in a vacuum. Music comes saturated with memories and associations that create whole worlds of meaning. It is not possible to separate out as pure music the melody that our mother hummed to us as a young child, the piece we heard when we first fell in love, the processional played at our wedding, the hymn we sang at our parents' funeral. The sounds, the memories, the associations, and the meanings all flow together. I'm going to play another piece of instrumental music for you. You're welcome to listen and journal by free association again if you'd just like to write down whatever comes to mind. But this time I'll also have some more specific prompts displayed on the screen for you to use if you'd like. And this one is a little bit longer. It's, I think, 8 minutes long. So you can settle in and listen. Don't feel like you need to be rushed to write. But again, go ahead and write down whatever you'd like, or there will be some prompts on the screen as well. So let's take a deep breath and listen. Would anyone like to share anything they wrote down about this song? That's interesting. Just since you said that, for some reason, I've heard this piece a lot of different times, and this time when I heard it, I heard shimmering in the strings, and it made me think of stars and space, and then the coming to that climax made me think of like something getting too close to the sun and then burning out or something like that. So it's interesting that you brought the sun rays up for you too. I will, I will in a minute. But any other thoughts first? Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, like a range of emotions, but ending on a major chord. Um, on it's so if anybody cares, it's actually the dominant chord. It's not the tonic chord, which means it's not actually landing in the home base of minor. So it's like moving to a different place, basically. That's happier because the tonic is minor, which is sad in our associations, which we'll talk about in a minute. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Right. Yeah. 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 Still kind of somber at the end. Yeah. I felt the same thing about kind of almost getting somewhere and then not, and then almost getting. But it's interesting that melody too. It's a very simple melody. It's just stepwise going up and down. Da, 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 da. It's just going up and down by steps, basically. It's very simple, but it's like achingly beautiful with the harmonies that are around it. Does anybody know what this piece was? Yes. Yep. Samuel Barber's Adagio for Strings. He's a 20th century American composer, and it's taken from the second movement of his string quartet, Opus 11. It was performed for the first time in 1938, and has since become America's semi-official music for mourning. The piece has been featured in many TV and movie soundtracks, and it is also often used for memorial ceremonies. You've likely heard it before. I think it's Platoon. It's at the end of, and other movies as well. It was also, yeah, John Williams is kind of a master at like taking familiar things and making it sound like familiar things. What's that? This is Samuel Barber. Yeah, yeah. um, it's also, it was used for a lot of memorial services after 9/11 and has since been used for a lot of memorial services. Even if you haven't heard this particular piece, like we understand from our prior experience with Western tonal music, that in our culture, slow pieces in minor keys generally represent a dark and somber emotional atmosphere. So minor to us basically is what feels sad when we hear it. Major is happy in Western tonal music, which is, Western tonal music is kind of like most of the music that we hear in our culture. You can go to the next slide, please. 20th century German-American theologian Paul Tillich suggested, and I would agree, that the religious dimension can be found in any cultural and religious activities as long as what is done in those activities relates to the quest for the meaning of our being. In helping us process, express, and understand complex emotions and memories, music is a medium through which we can grasp the meaning of our being and directly encounter the divine. As Thomas Troger says, next slide please, there is an ontic or real character to the Word of God that exceeds the articulation of human language. I believe listening to music with intention and letting it speak to us deeply is one way we can hear God's Word. So far tonight, we focused on our individual relationships with music and how it can affect us internally. But it should be noted that while we process and make meaning out of music internally, it also helps to it also helps to situate us within and strengthen our connections to the various communities of which we are a part. When we think about how we tend to engage with music, it tends to be in a ritualistic manner. We like to listen to and sing or perform our favorite songs over and over again, and often with others, in community. This is why ethnomusicologist Stephen Feld says, slide please, that songs are the collective and connective flow of individual lives and community histories. The songs that are shared again and again within a community become part of the very fabric of its shared identity. In our Greystone Church community, we have our favorite hymns and congregational songs, which also connect us to the broader worldwide Christian community. As Americans, we have our national folk music, In fact, any nation will have its own culturally significant folk music, and music's ability to strengthen social bonds is a primary reason it was such an important part of so many nationalistic movements of the 19th and 20th centuries. With different friend groups and family members, we may have different songs or styles of music that tend to draw us together. When I was younger, I had different friends and friend groups who I'd be more likely to listen to either jazz or rock with, which was different from the music I'd often listen to in the car with my mom. In her book, Exploring Worship as Worship in Theology, Santa Clara University professor of liturgical studies, Mary McGann says, slide please, that God acts through the idioms, perceptions, and insights of a people's culture. And thus, music is a form of communication through which we can observe how God's action is expressed and understood across times and places and within different social groups. I'd like to ask each of you to begin considering a spiritual soundtrack or playlist for your lives. My hope is that in recalling, thinking about, and discussing the songs we each add to our playlists, we'll begin to gain a deeper appreciation of how music intrinsically helps us connect with and make sense of God, our interior selves, and the various communities we each belong to. Think about the songs that have been most meaningful for you throughout your life, and also why they have been so meaningful. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You can take a chronological approach, or you can list songs that evoke certain emotions, but simply try to think about some of the songs that have moved you in memorable ways. You each have a list of prompts included in your packets that can help if you need some specific direction. I'd like you to take your pen and paper and start working on your spiritual playlists. I'm going to give you a few minutes to start your playlist with 4 or 5 songs, and then I'll give you some further instructions. So take just a few minutes and think about some of the songs that have been, again, meaningfully for you throughout your life, and there's a whole list of prompts that can help you think about different ways that music has moved you throughout your life. So this is an activity that I'm hoping each of you will want to continue as you go from here. Obviously, that hasn't been a whole lot of time for you to list an entire playlist, but now that you've got some songs listed, I'd like each of you to pick one song from your list and share with the others at your table why you put it on your list. So pick one song and share with the others at your table why you chose it for your list. All right, I'm glad to hear so much lively discussion. I wish we had more time, but since I have a couple other things planned, so I do want to move on. But before we do move on, I want to ask, how do you all feel now after having talked with each other about your spiritual playlist songs? I see a lot of smiles, yeah. I'm hoping you're feeling refreshed and revived. Imagine you're probably feeling something, and likely something similar to what you felt before when you've listened to the song that you were talking about. If we had more time, I'd love for us to be able to sit and listen to our songs with each other. In my opinion, when we say listen to this or check this out, we're basically saying this song has moved me in a particular way and I want to share it with you so that you might also be moved. I'd suggest that the ritualistic listening, singing, and or playing of the songs on our lists has always been directed toward providing individual and communal answers to the quest for meaning of our being, as Tillich would say, and has allowed us to truly feel and know the presence of God in various ways. Now I'm going to play a version of a song that would likely go on many of our spiritual playlists, and it's definitely on the spiritual playlist of the Greystone community, but you're going to hear it in a way that you probably haven't heard it before. I think being awed and amazed by music can be a spiritual experience, and likewise, hearing a familiar tune in a new and different way can also be a spiritual experience. By the way, that was Victor Wooten, bass player for a band called Bella Fleck and the Flecktones, who are an amazing jam band. I know you all kind of have heard of them before at least. And if you're not aware of like how amazing what he was doing, like, I mean, obviously it sounded like more than one person, but the way he was playing the bass is also extremely unconventional, like doing a lot of harmonic things that are just really difficult to do, and sort of Van Halen style playing up and down the neck with just his fingers. But yeah, so being amazed, obviously, I think can just put us in sort of a spiritual state. So far, we've talked about how music can stir up emotions and provide meaning in our lives, but if you're like me, the meaning you get and feel from music can often be seemingly beyond words. However, in the church's tradition of hymnody, we have forms that can provide some structure in helping us give voice to our deepest emotions. Writing a hymn is actually much easier than I'd imagine most people would think. Well, it's a simple concept, at least. You can put the next slide up. Yeah, so what is a hymn? A hymn is simply a poem with a metrical form, meaning it has the same recurring pattern of syllables and stresses. Amazing Grace is a hymn that we're all familiar with. The text is written with a meter or syllable count of 8686 and a recurring unstressed, stressed syllable pattern. You can go to the next slide. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, 8 syllables, unstressed, stressed, that saved a wretch like me, 6 syllables. I once was lost, but now am found, 8, was blind, but now I see. And you notice also the rhyme form is basically A, B, A, B. So the end of the first line rhymes, the 8-syllable line rhymes with the other 8-syllable line, the end of the 6-syllable line rhymes with the other 6-syllable line. This particular meter of 8686 is called common meter because it's so common that poems and songs, it's so common for poems and songs written in the English language. And any text with this meter can be set to tunes composed to match. So you've probably heard before, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, that saved a wretch like me. House of the Rising Sun. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost. Gilligan's Island. Yeah. Or Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, that saved a wretch like me. It came upon a midnight clear. That's another 8686. So hymn tunes are often composed separately from hymn texts with melodies that fit certain meters. Hymn tunes and meters, or syllable counts, can usually be found at the bottom right corner of notated hymns. In this case, Amazing Grace is noted as the tune name rather than New Britain. New Britain is actually the name of the tune for this, but it's noted as Amazing Grace because the tune has become so familiar with the Amazing Grace text. And here CM stands for common meter, which, as we just said, is the 8686 syllable count. In our Protestant classical tradition, hymns essentially do 7 things. They develop a point of doctrine, express or evoke an emotion, paraphrase a biblical text, mark a liturgical season, retell a biblical story, explore a biblical image, or address a contemporary issue. Since our discussion tonight has been primarily focused on music and emotion, next slide please, I'd like for us to focus our hymn writing exercise on expressing an emotion or multiple emotions music can bring up for us and how this helps us to know and understand God more deeply. So we're going to do a hymn writing exercise. If you have trouble basically all you're going to need to do is the first thing I'd like you to do is just try and think of an 8/6 line that has to do with this idea. Express an emotion or multiple emotions music can bring up for you, and consider how does music help us to know and understand God more deeply. So basically you're looking for a thought that goes da 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 da. Okay? And if you get that far, the hard part is the rhyming part. But coming up with something that is in that syllable count is relatively easy because we talk like that quite a bit. So I'm going to give you just a few minutes to try and come up with an 8/6, a line of 8 and then a line of 6. If you can come all the way up with a stanza, a whole stanza, or a rhyming stanza, that would be great. But you get a gold star for that. But yes, it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. The strict meter and the rhyming pattern kind of forces us to think of new and different ways to say things in our quest for meaning. So we're going to try right now. So 8/6, and then you can try and rhyme another 8/6. So I have some people that are ready to share. You can go ahead and keep working if you want. And again, this is one that you can take to go with you. Again, this is a simple exercise, or not even, I call it an exercise. That makes it sound like it's not fun, or an activity. Something that you can do that anybody can do. I mean, it's really, it's a simple concept. Obviously, like I said, it's harder to do in practice. And the rhyming part is the hard part. But Carol had one. Are you going to share?
never leave me in the lurch. If I'm in need, they'll pray.
Nice. Awesome. That's great. We have another one? Did you have another one? Or you don't want to share it now? Sylvia? Oh, okay.
The star shone bright up in the sky. The shepherds saw it there. The baby Jesus gave his life for all the world to share.
Nice. That's great. Sylvia?
When I am down and out and sad and lonely, God gives me calm, peace, and love. It makes me think of others, family, and not self only. It carries me away on the wings of love.
Nice. Okay. Great. Thank you. Anyone else? Sure. You're breaking the rules. Nice. That's awesome. So I studied classical music in school and learned throughout my time in music theory and everything that there's a whole lot of rules that come after, theory comes after practice basically, but rules, basically the reason great composers sound good is because they break the rules. And so, and in songwriting, I've never taken a class or been educated in songwriting, so I don't really care about the rules. So. But of course, they're good guides, though. So I didn't get very far. I only had an 8/6 line, but I had the hope and joy that music brings when we are amazed and awed. And I was going to have something about leading us to our God or something, but I didn't get that far. Anybody else have something they want to share? Even 2 lines. Go ahead. Nice. That's awesome. What was that the Coke song or something? Yeah. That's another 8/6. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. So that's another 8 common meter song. That's great. Um, I wish we had more time for this. If we had more time, obviously we could spend more time and everybody could come up with a stanza. But please, again, feel free to take these packets with you and continue to do this on your own. I think it's kind of fun. I mean, obviously I think it's fun, but so let's see, if you were able to complete a stanza, I'd really appreciate you emailing it to me. If you weren't able to finish one tonight, and if you do want to finish one, go ahead and email that to me too. I'm not going to use it without your permission, but I think if we end up coming up with like a full hymn around this idea, that would be kind of cool. Let's see. Again, so if you've enjoyed this exercise, know that we've barely touched the tip of the iceberg when it comes to hymnody. Most hymnals include a metrical index of tunes. Slide, please. That's the one from our Pew hymnal. So if there's a particular hymn tune that you like, I'd encourage you to look up its meter and try to write your own hymn text to it. We didn't really get into the ins and outs of the stresses of the syllables, but the stresses are kind of important too. So it's either da 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 or da 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 da. And there's another one, I forget what, so there's iambic and trochic and some other, I don't know, Steve would probably know. What's the great is thy faithfulness? The 3, diactyl or something? I don't know. Anyways. Oh, yeah. Do you know? You don't know? Yeah. Okay, I don't feel so bad then. All right, so, but again, if you have a particular tune that you like, I'd encourage you to look up its meter and try to write your own hymn text to it. Because even if it's never used publicly, writing the hymn in itself is an act of prayer and praise. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's presentation and that it's made you think more about how music, by its very nature, connects us with God, each other, and our own selves. Music journaling and hymn writing are 2 specific musical spiritual practices that you can take with you. But let's also remember that engaging with music in any way can be a spiritual practice if it's done with intention. Thank you all very much for coming. And I'm going to give you, so the music that I wanted us to listen to tonight, I intentionally did as instrumental because I didn't want words to sort of affect the way that we were hearing it. I'm going to give you the name of a piece that I can almost guarantee you is different from anything you've ever heard, that I would love for you to listen to on your own if you want to. It's called World, O World by Jacob Collier. And if you look it up on YouTube, there's a particular video on YouTube of him, of Jacob Collier, Collier, World, O World. And this, well, I could talk about this guy for a while, but he's on a whole other level as far as music theory and everything is concerned. And his writing is very different from anything that you probably have ever heard before. But that piece in particular kind of goes through a range of emotions too. So it'd be a good one to listen to. That would be one that I'd put on my spiritual playlist. So I'm sharing it with you. All right. Well, thank you all very much.